Did you know that fans and fandom are the reason that Zatanna joined the Justice League? Maybe you did, but even so, let's go into some of the details. Let's explore some fun fandom history. Now, Zatanna is a character who many already associate with the Justice League in some capacity for a variety of reasons. Maybe it's the main Justice League, maybe it's Dark, maybe it's Detroit. Time of recording, she's been a member longer than she hasn't, and she's also appeared with the team in various adaptations. And even when she debuted, it started off in individual characters' issues, but then it culminated in a Justice League story. That's issue 51 from 1967. But she wasn't made a member until 1978. So, what happened? I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and we're gonna be hanging out in the letters column, my favorite place. Zatanna debuted in Hawkman number 4 in 1964 and was created by Gardner Fox and Murphy Anderson. If you've been following this channel a while, you'll know that means she has quite the creator pedigree, as both were responsible for some long-lasting DC creations. In Fox's case, things like the numbered multiverse, the very specific Earth 1, Earth 2, the JSA, the JLA, and Zatanna, and many other Golden Age characters. Murphy Anderson also co-created some key characters. Recently, we were discussing his work on Captain Comet, where he drew it, but then he helped co-create Adam Strange, who has a lot of Captain Comet in him. Now, the Justice League debuted in Brave and the Bold 28 in 1960, and had 2 follow-up stories in issues 29 and 30 that same year. And then it quickly got its own book, also in 1960. And the team would start to have a bit of an expanding roster. By issue 4 of Justice League, they would add Green Arrow. And it would eventually become exciting to see who would/should join the team. And also who should leave. These were matters that were up for debate. Largely these debates happened in fandom, but then DC Comics found a way to kind of try and incorporate that fandom discussion into the comics themselves. Zatanna's official entry into the league is in issue 161 from 1978, although she does dramatically reject the offer at first, and also appears in a new costume. Green Arrow calls her an ingrate on the cover. And after they all voted for her, the audacity. Why would anybody not want to be a part of the Justice League? In the 70s, lots of reasons, lots of interpersonal drama. The story is called Roll Call, and it opens on the vote. Green Arrow looks furious before anything has even happened. No sense in putting it off any longer, guys. We've all had time to think this out, so let's stop hedging. As chairman for this meeting, I'm calling for a vote, so do what you have to. But remember, we're talking about a person's life. The reverse spells of Zatanna's magic, Sigum? Kigum. Backwards is what it is. Clearly, I'm not going to get the role in the Red Room of Twin Peaks. Now, outside of this story, it's important to note the time period this is happening in, 1978. Not only is that the Bronze Age, but it's a very specific part of the Bronze Age for DC. 1978 is the year of the explosion and the implosion. So let's cliff notes a little bit what that was. The explosion was a marketing term and push. More titles, bigger books, a bit of a higher price point because you were getting more pages. The implosion was the cancellation of a lot of those books. Now there's a whole history as to why these cuts happened, how it almost led to Detective Comics, which is the comic that the company is named for being canceled. It was all a time. But we're cliff noting. The important thing is that it did happen and they did have to cancel a bunch of stuff. It's important to know the terms because one of them is going to be utilized in the letters column by the editor, the explosion. Now at this period in the 70s, DC was doing votes for a lot of things, rather polls. You can see a call to action and a breakdown of how this works in JLA 152. In a JLA mailroom extra, which interestingly also has a letter written in it by someone detailing who they would like off the Justice League. Because at the same time we have a poll asking who should be added, we have a poll asking who should leave. But in issue 152, you also get to see the scope of the votes. For example, in the popularity poll, you learn that there were 269 ballots cast. That's it, which is not as high as some may imagine. Also, the winner of the popularity vote was Green Lantern Hal Jordan. He placed first, which is interesting because his sales do not reflect that. But again, that's why it's important to note that this was a small sample size. There are different types of fans. There are ones who are more casual. There are ones who are more engaged. There are ones who are, even if they are engaged, aren't the type who are going to write in and vote on something. The fact that's not the hugest sample size is remarked upon in issue 158. And in that one, we get to see the results of the poll that would have Zatanna added to the league. And that poll did get more votes. Probably partially spurred on by the letter response written by Bob Rozakis, who was overseeing the letters column at the time. Who, fun fact, got his start because he wrote into the letters column so much. That was in 152. He wrote, yes, I'm going to read stuff from the letters column. It's one of my favorite things. To give the poll some importance, editor Julius Schwartz and writer Jerry Conway have worked out a special JLA story starring our top 5 point getters to appear in the next issue. So all you readers who took the time to vote can see your votes for your favorite played a part in determining who will star in the story. Meantime, for those of you who didn't vote in that poll, we've got another one to keep us busy. On a postcard or a separate sheet of paper with your letter commenting about this issue, list in order 3 JLAers who should be out of the league, and also in order 3 heroes who should become JLA members. Got it? Get to it and send your votes to JLA Mailroom Extra, and then they give the address. Every vote counts. It really does when there's that few. But what this also does is it lays the groundwork for them following through on the poll/vote results, which must have been very encouraging. So let's look at 158. What did the poll look like? Who did people want on the team? Well, firstly, we get an interaction confirming more votes. Dear Bob, thank you so much for printing the actual numerical results to the JLA survey as listed in number 152. I was surprised to see how few readers answered the survey, myself included. I assure you that I'll be a loyal voter from now on, and I encourage all the readers to feel the same way. Justice League will be a much better magazine if the readers express themselves instead of merely saying, Elongated Man came in 13th, why didn't I vote? At least, that's what I said. So now I'm voting. Editor's response. Thanks for your comments and encouragement, Dave. Our second polls have gotten almost double the response that our first one did, and there are still ballots coming. However, even as we are tabulating new votes every day, the winners, or losers, seem pretty much set. For that reason, and the fact that our conversion to DC explosion size has left us with an earlier letter call deadline, short of letters, we present the tallies as they now stand. So now we get to see the top 10. Drum roll, please. Number 1, Zatanna. Number 2, Captain Comet. Number 3, Black Lightning. Number 4, Supergirl. Number 5, Metamorpho. Number 6, The Creeper. Number 7, John Jones. Number 8, Firestorm. Number 9, Batgirl. Number 10, Mr. Miracle. I will pause it on the screen so you can see all of the others because there are some interesting choices here. Also, hey, look at number 24, Airwave. Time for recording, DC All In. It finally happened for Airwave. As one can see from the numbers on the sides, Zatanna is a strong number 1, but also in issue 152, it said the top 3 would join the league. Sadly, that did not happen for Captain Comet or Black Lightning. Not the time. Now, Captain Comet is on my brain time recording. We recently just did a whole video talking about his origins in the Atomic Age 1951, but he did return in the 1970s, primarily in the Secret Society of Supervillains, and that's where many people know him from, although there are also many who know him from his later outings in Rebels and Legion. Captain Comet pops in and out. He did have a couple of other brief appearances in the 70s, but people did like him, and it did look for a time that, like Zatanna, they were going to make good on adding him too. He's made an honorary member by Hawkman in DC Special number 27. It's the same issue he punches a dinosaur. Tommy Tomorrow's in that one too. Alas, the implosion ended Secret Society of Supervillains and maybe his chances at being on the league. I'm not sure if it was just crunching down because of cancellations and betting on sure things, if there was some kind of editorial changeover because there were certain people who really care about certain characters and push for them and others who don't. But that's a deep dive for another time, another Captain Comet time. This is about Zatanna. What's interesting is that Rosakis does express some surprise that Zatanna was so heavily voted for. In the poll letter, he writes, but who should take the place of these JLAers? If indeed any of them do quit. The answer was one we wouldn't have guessed in a million issues. Considering that Zatanna has not appeared in any of our magazines for years, we were amazed at the support she received. Following are the 25 vote getters. There were plenty of others, over 100 different DC, and a couple of Marvel characters got votes, from Sergeant Rock to Rex the Wonder Dog to Tin of the Metal Men, and including blanket votes for the Freedom Fighters, the Metal Men, and the Teen Titans. The Teen Titans can't be on the Justice League, they're their own team. Also, the fact that some people were voting for Marvel characters, that is some pre-internet age trollery, or just really wishful thinking. The companies would already have crossed over at the point in 1976, but still. Now we know that Zatanna was added, but since we're here, who did people want off? The top 10 of that are also very interesting. In the top 10 we have number 1, Phantom Stranger. Number 2, The Batman. Number 3, Aquaman. Number 4, Hawk Girl. Number 5, The Atom. Number 6, Elongated Man. Number 7, Superman. Number 8, Green Arrow. Number 9, Red Tornado. Number 10, Black Canary. Batman was the character who was written in about in issue 152, and it was somebody agreeing with somebody else, so this seems to have been an ongoing conversation. So for those who are either burnt out of Batman or feel that he doesn't belong in the Justice League, the 1970s sees you. You are part of a long-held sentiment. Dear editor and fellow fans, I agree with reader David R. Datson. The Batman should go. Bats is one of my favorite characters, and that is the reason I would like to see him out of the Justice League. He just doesn't belong there. Before Mr. Datson brought it up, I never really noticed how totally changed the Caped Crusader is. He is a loner, not a joiner, and should therefore want out. I'd like to see you at DC take the drastic action and drop your second biggest drawing card of the JLA. Have Batman hang up his signaler and maybe have Robin join to take his place. Better yet, how about Batwoman? Hey, the push for Batwoman. It's interesting to see that in the 70s because she was shelved in the 60s by Julia Schwartz for being too silly, and then they brought her back, and then later she gets a Grant Morrison update, and now there is a second Batwoman that people may be thinking of and not the first one. In 158, they say they're not surprised that the Phantom Stranger was one who was chosen to be voted off because he ranked so low in the popularity poll. While it isn't too great a surprise that many readers want the Phantom Stranger out, he ranked 12th in the favorite JLAer poll. The Batman has an extraordinary number of readers wanting him to bow out. Bats came in 4th in the previous poll, 2nd in the first place vote for favorite. A number of readers, however, including one who phoned in his votes, said that they really liked the Caped Crusader, but felt he was out of place in the league, overshadowed by his superpowered compatriots. Similarly, anti-Aquaman voters cited his minimal usefulness in most adventures, and the anti-Hawk Girl forces objected to the overlapping. Because you have Hawkman and Hawk Girl. Two Hawks. Poor Aquaman, he's gonna end up being so edgified before the general public takes him seriously. and then they're gonna say he's too ecchi. Phantom Stranger does make sense as a top choice to me. Having read a decent amount of JLA from that period, he will often just pop up and tell them that they have to do something and then vanish, and he was condescending to them sometimes. Now, the coolest thing about all of this and why I highlighted it is definitely the fan interaction. Even if the overall engagement for such a book-altering decision may be lower than some may have expected, I'm really curious if people were salty if their faves didn't win or about where they placed. Probably, I'm sure. I still get comments time recording in 2025 from people saying they wish that Captain Comet had been added. These things, they stick with you. Now, it would be very complicated to try and do a vote like this today. Every now and again, they do try and attempt it in this social media era. They did those round robin things for comic ideas, and it was a tad awkward, what with the multiple platforms and even some of the creators expressing they didn't like it. Just personally though, I do like when the company attempts to interact like this. There will always be salt when it comes to things like this, but that engagement and seeing the creators trying to do what fans want and just kind of engage with them in a fun way, I think it is fun. Although it can of course go wrong. Now, the changes in the landscape, especially with social media and the way that information and feedback can be conveyed, makes things quite different. It also can be a bit difficult to gauge, and you have a lot of outside eyes looking at this process as well. The response to potential pushback can be swift and overwhelming, and its genuineness can be difficult to discern. But even that is just a magnification of a problem that already existed. For example, the editors write about fans trying to do multiple votes by sending in multiple postcards, but then they could tell it was the same handwriting, and also coming from the same location. Today, you would see that, but with sock puppet accounts, which is also already just an evolution of leaving your phone on speed dial or redial to kill Jason Todd. One of these things about looking back at fandom history is seeing how similar fandom has remained. It's just the tools they have that have changed. Some attitudes have shifted, but overall you'll see a lot of the same complaints, a lot of the same discussions. As for doing something like this time of recording, I can acknowledge the potential nightmare scenarios, headaches, backlash, liabilities. However, I think if you could get it to work, I think it would be really fun. Whatever ends up occurring, it's fun to look back at moments of history like this. And it's led to some memorable things, like Zatanna joining the JLA, which I also did find a letter about. I was curious what people thought about it, but mostly it was about her costume and hatred for her ponytail. Dear editor, about Zatanna as the League's new member. I'm glad you chose a woman. I would rather have seen Insect Queen, but Zatanna was my second choice. However, Zatanna's new costume and hairstyle are horrible. Ponytails look silly on superheroines, and her costume is plain ugly. Her shoes remind me of Munchkins. Please change it. How about asking the writers to design a new costume for her? Well, how about it? Anyway, I'll always be a Justice League fan. Shots fired by Warren at the costume. Ooh, there's a response. Warren suited action to words by enclosing a proposed new costume for Zatanna as well. But before we open new floodgates by asking for costume submissions, we'd like to find out if the rest of you readers feel the same. Fans are more likely to write a letter if they dislike something rather than if they like something. So we can't really think the few negative letters received about Zatanna's new duds were truly representative. Consider this a summons, readers. Do you vote yay or nay on Zatanna's costume? At any rate, keep those cards and letters coming, and we'll see you next month. I'm curious, do you think there's a way to streamline votes like this? And what do you think is the best thing to vote on? Do you think it's better to have it be something smaller, a costume, a hairstyle change, maybe a guest appearance rather than a full-blown place on a team? Has the advent of social media and the immediacy of feedback/response altered the landscape to the point where at this moment it's not feasible or it's very low feasibility? Because in these early letters, it does feel like there is a control point that is there. These days, it kind of feels like things are all over the place. Again, time for recording. I'm just musing, pondering. Ponder with me. It's casual for once. That almost never happens. Also, let me know, what did you think of these results from 1978? Did you vote in this? If so, for who? Are you one of those Teen Titans or Marvel people? I'd love to hear all your thoughts on this. Please share them down below. And while you're down there, please do all YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hype, engage. Maybe it's just the optimist in me, but I do think that when the internet works and pulls together, you can see some really fun engagement moments still. There are just different hurdles and things to overcome, but I think you could do something like it. And personally, again, maybe I'm being naive, I still think there are people who would engage with it genuinely and be really into it on both sides. Also, it could be a disaster. I acknowledge that too. There are, of course, more videos coming soon. Who knows where we're going? The whims will take us places, and I hope to see you there. Bye-bye.